Okay, so hey everyone, here's our presentation today. So my name is Jiaqi Zhang.
Hi everyone, this is Amy. Today we will present our behavioral study on UBC's winter black squirrels, which are part of an introduced population on campus. What did we study? Does a squirrel's flight ignition distance (FID) change when it's feeding versus not feeding? This central question shaped our entire project. We wanted to know whether a squirrel's escaped behavior is influenced by what it's doing at that moment, and whether its willingness to take risks shifts when food is involved. Flight ignition distance is a widely used measure in animal behavior, and examining it helps us understand how animals balance risk and reward in human-dominated environments. And honestly, there are few squirrels on campus in winter that sometimes it feels like they are the ones surviving us. It seems like a squirrel asks, "All right, bro, what exactly are you doing here?"
So, what is FID? FID is the distance between an animal and an approaching threat at the moment the animal decides to flee. So, in a simple way, when you are trying to get close to an animal and suddenly at a point it just escaped, then the distance between you and the escape point will be the FID distance. So normally, a large FID might mean the animal is more nervous and more afraid of the human approach, and a small FID might mean the animal is more tolerant, possibly because it is engaged in something important like food, or it just like experience more disturbance. And before moving into our results, it's always helpful to know some types of squirrels found in British Columbia. So we have dog-eared squirrels on the left, the northern flying squirrels on the right. So they are both native to BC, and they're relatively smaller than eastern gray squirrels. So eastern gray squirrel, which has both gray and black furs, they are commonly seen on UBC campus, and they are non-native. So people always say they are invasive species, but not 100%. Remember what we studied in Bio 230 about niche partitioning? Exactly here, eastern gray squirrels show better adaptability to live in urban areas like UBC, like our community, while the other two are more likely to live in forest ecosystems. So, why do we study this? UBC has tons of squirrels. Some run away at the sight of people, while others seem like braver. We want to know when a squirrel is in feeding state, which means they can gain immediate energy from the food, will then take the risk and stay longer before running. So in other words, do feeding state squirrels take risk and show a shorter FID? So here's our sampling area. On the right is our UBC map. We can see like bug stars, our Mima. So our sampling area is basically the red shaded area. And the black star area is like the most the squirrels appeared area. So we have like around IKB around our center and on the side of our Mima.
Our data collection procedure was completely standardized. First, spot a squirrel and determine whether it is feeding or not. Second, walk slowly toward it at a constant speed. Third, when the squirrel flees, record the distance using the iPhone measuring tool. 4. If the device could not log on to the squirrel, we estimate the starting point manually. This standardized process helped minimize error and kept the two behavioral groups comparable. But to people passing by, we probably looked like we were sneaking up on squirrels, not doing science. Some students give us the most confused looks. We observed 26 squirrels, just like the ones in Mike's phones. 13 feeding, 13 not feeding, a perfect balanced data sets.
So let's look our results. We have the blue line, which indicating the feeding state squirrels. They have a mean FID like about 2 meters, and the orange one for non-feeding state, they have mean like 3 meters. So this data results match our hypothesis, which means squirrels do show a shorter FID when they are in the feeding state. And then we also have some additional observations. So first of all, squirrels likely understand they will have natural protection when they're on trees or in bushes, which leading to a much smaller FID. So if we look at the graph on the right, the mean FID here is only like around 1 meters. But since this condition, squirrels are difficult to encounter, like even like if they are too high on the trees, we cannot even measure them. So our sample size is still relatively small, only 5 samples. So more samples are needed to confirm whether this phenomenon is widespread. And secondly, feeding squirrels often flee only a short distance and then go right back to eating. We can see from my pictures, the squirrels is still in my picture frame when I measure the distance, which like it's happened like 5-6 seconds after they flee. So like the graph here, we can see feeding state is only like run for a short distance, and for non-feeding ones, they're just run farther away. And finally, many squirrels chose to ignore people walking past. Instead means like if you stop and stare them, they will notice you and act more cautiously. So just imagine a strange people staring at you and recording you. So all these observations need more sample data to be confirmed. Also, like we have to see a lot of them happening during our sampling.
What does this tell us? Squirrels adjust their FID based on what they are doing at that moment. Our results show that squirrels adjust their flight initiation distance based on what they are doing at that moment. When feeding, they accept higher risk because the immediate energy reward is valuable, so they allow humans to approach more closely. When not feeding, they gain no benefits from staying, so they flee earlier and farther. Overall, this reflects a clear risk reward trade off. The more valuable the activity, the more risk the animal is willing to tolerate. It also highlights the strong behavioral flexibility of urban squirrels in adjusting their anti predator strategies. When feeding, immediate food reward potential danger. They choose to stay longer and flee at a shorter distance. What this really means is that feeding shifts the squirrel's priorities. Once it's eating, the food becomes its main focus, and the potential risk from a human approaching moves to the background. That's why a feeding squirrel is more relaxed and allows people to get closer before deciding to run. In short, its attention is anchored on the food, so its response to danger becomes less immediate. When non-feeding, no trade-off between benefits and danger. They flee earlier and farther while their natural movement, looking for food, may also contribute to greater distance. What this means is that without food in front of them, Squirrels have no immediate reason to stay put. There's no benefits to balance against the potential risk, so the safety choice is simply to run sooner. That is why non-feeding squirrels react more quickly and keep a larger distance from an approaching person. And there's another layer to this. When squirrels are not eating, they are usually moving around, scanning the ground, or hopping between spots to look for food. This natural foraging behavior makes them more alert and more mobile to begin with. As a result, their flight distance can appear even larger, not only because they are cattle, but also because they are already in motion. So, non-feeding squirrels behave more carefully. They escape earlier, run farther, and show a generally heightened awareness of their surroundings simply because there's nothing holding them in place and nothing worth taking a risk for. Limitation. First, Apple's rangefinder cannot lock onto squirrels from far away. So we have to get closer to the squirrels first, visualize their escaping point, and measure the FID distance, which will have smaller arrows. Second, the sample size is still relatively small, which means we need more samples. Third, we could not mark squirrels, so some individuals may have been recorded more than once time. But since our research is comparing feeding versus non-feeding states, whether they are the same squirrels seems had minimal effect. 4. We have continuous and different disturbance in camels every minute from people, bats, dogs, and may have influenced squirrel behavior. It is worth nothing the squirrels did not read our research proposal, so they often behaved in ways we could not predict. Some fled too early, some didn't flee at all, and one just started at us, like we were the strange ones. Feeding squirrels has a smaller FID. They are waiting between immediate energy gain and potential risk. Non-feeding squirrels show larger FID since they do not gain benefits from taking on risk. Implication: understanding how urban wildlife balance risk and rewards help us predict how animals adapt to human-dominated environments. This kind of behavioral flexibility may influence how species survive, forage, and interact in increasingly urban ecosystems. This is our reference list. And thank you so much for watching.